What's up, everybody? This is Shane from Ferocious Fatherhood here for doing another 30 for 30 interview. My guest today from Ohio, I got Cody Truitt here from Of Sound Mind Feed. Cody, welcome to the show, man.
Appreciate it, brother. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, so walk me through Of Sound Mind Feed, man. So I go on there and I see the Christian aspects and father aspects, and you blend them together, man. Talk about it a little bit there.
Yeah, for sure. So I'll start with kind of how I got started with Of Sound Mind Feed. It started actually back in 2020, and I had just recently gotten married to my wife, and I grew up pretty. I don't want to say I was a sissy, but I was a pretty. I wasn't a very manly guy,
Okay.
especially in he's right.
Mm-hmm.
And 2020, the the pandemic hit, and I really started I had a lot of time to myself, right, sitting at home, and so I started listening to podcasts. Actually, the first podcast I listened to was Order of Man, and I started listening to the things that he was saying, and then I got into the Pursuit of Manliness as well. I don't know if you've ever heard of that, but with Jarrett Samuels, and it really started to, shift me into a different gear of being a man, and especially me being a new husband. I needed to be a good man for my wife. But really, Of Sound Mind Feed was to sort of express my creativity with that I make. I know they're not like top notch, but it was for me to kind of play around with stuff and make cool photos, but also to share the word of God, help fathers on lessons that I had learned, and just men in general. If you look at the page from the beginning to now, it's kind of like a timeline. It kind of just follows my journey of things that I've been learning, growing in my faith, growing as a man, husband. And then when we had our 1-year-old daughter, when I found out we were going to have our 1-year-old daughter, man, I'll tell you what, that really changed the direction of how I wanted to go as a man and as a father, husband. And so it really, it's been a sense of an outlet, and it really has been helping me kind of help other men, be good fathers, husbands, and men of God.
Yeah, man, that's so cool. We definitely need more of that just in this world in general. It's so awesome that out of the pandemic that you were able to start that. And that Ferocious Fatherhood started in 2021. I got the idea. So the pandemic was still going on. It still is.
Right. Yeah.
But, yeah, man. So it's kind of cool to see the different aspects of how men shifted when maybe their careers got altered or whatever in the pandemic, to how they then began to provide for their families. That's really awesome.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Yeah. So let me kind of get your general background, kind of your childhood growing up. You hit on it a little bit, but if you don't mind, kind of expand in with your father in your life. You said you currently have. Is it just the one child, the one daughter?
Yep. She's a year.
Cool. So if you don't mind, kind of what your childhood was like with your father in your life, and then what your career is currently.
Yeah, absolutely. So growing up, I had a pretty normal childhood. I was raised by both my parents, and we typically had everything we needed, food, clothes, place to sleep. We did struggle at times, especially when I was younger. My dad had his own business. He had a roofing business, and when we did struggle, I definitely could recognize it even as a kid. Sometimes we didn't have a lot of food. We would kind of snack on cereal and Pop-Tarts, you know what I'm saying? And but as I got older, I definitely saw my dad's business really take off, and I noticed that we had more things. We moved to a nicer house, and but really, my dad's business, it carried us. And then outside of that, I was a pretty normal kid. I was a little scrawny kid, but we did we played outside, and my dad got me a go-kart, and I loved that thing, man. I'd tear up the yard with that go-kart, flipped it a couple times.
But no, if you don't flip it, you ain't using it right.
Right. No, apparently it was a pretty normal childhood. My father was in my life, and I'll just kind of go into that. He with having his own business, he definitely was working a lot of hours. And when I was younger, he tried his best, you know, to spend quality time with us, be a good dad. But it seemed always like work was kind of taking him from us. But I don't blame him for that. You know, at the time, what he felt he had to do to make sure that we had the things that we needed. So
yeah, absolutely.
As I'm older and I'm realizing that too with my own family, I definitely appreciate, you know, what he did, even if he had to sacrifice, you know, some dad child time, some quality time.
Yeah, it's really cool to hear people kind of reflect on their own childhood, because I was kind of the same way. My father, he worked all the time, and then he picked up a job or two here and there. So in the moment, it's like, it sucks. Like, of course, you want your dad there, but then now that you're older, you totally get it. You totally understand. Like, hey, it was that, or we didn't eat sometimes. Like,
Yeah.
It's man, the sacrifices that our fathers made. It's so incredible.
And I also feel like that just was the generation that they came from. You know, like they were just, it was the same. They were workhorses, man, and then they pushed that onto their kids. And not saying that we, our generation, aren't hard workers, but it was definitely more prominent in our dad's generation.
Yeah, I do agree with that. It's definitely more prominent to be like, I'm a man, like, this is me, like, type of deal. Right. So yeah. Cool. So you said that your father, he was pretty involved in your life. So what were some major lessons that you learned from your father growing
up? Really, the thing that stands out to me the most was his ability to work hard. You know, I feel like that's a dying trait to have these days, which is say.
Yeah.
But
kind of sad to say, I think.
Yeah, it is. This isn't really something that he like preached to me or told me. It was just showed me. You know, he showed me working hard is important to provide for your family. And yeah, that's really the biggest thing that sticks out to me. So
yeah, absolutely. It's definitely I think they're one of the hardest working generations with our parents. I mean, my dad did whatever it took. So it sounds like your father was right up there in that same alley.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's really cool to hear that you just absorb stuff. I mean, would he take you kind of and show you a little bit of his business at all? Like, did he pull you into that aspect of it at all?
Yeah. He had me tear off a couple roofs with him, throw on a new roof. I'm 8-9 years old up there on a roof helping him out, and I probably got in the way more than I helped, but but he showed me some things, and he definitely would get me involved with his business, which I really appreciated.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah,
that's really cool. So then, did you have other fatherly figures in your life besides your dad? Maybe like coaches or teachers or anything like that?
Yeah, and I had a lot of good teachers, a lot of men at church that kind of took me under their wing. But one that really stands out to me, and he was actually a father figure for my dad when my dad was young. So this man was really old, but he, and I'll kind of go into that other question of some of the things that he taught me. He was a grouchy old man, and he told you, because he worked for my dad as well in that roofing business. And so when I was out there with him, he'd be on my case, you know, constantly, you know, you need to do this, right? You need to do this.
Right.
But what I appreciated about that was he wasn't just demanding or grouchy or mean about it. He would explain it to me in a way, you know, that was patient, understanding. He would be loud about it, but his patience and understanding with me as a kid, as a grouchy old man, it spoke volumes to me. So
yeah, that's awesome. That patience and perseverance, that's so critical to teach your kids, and to have learned that from somebody outside the family. You can't put a price on it.
Yeah, and he was one of those. I'm pretty sure he was born in like 1920 or something like that. But so he lived on a farm, and he lived in a time where it was stupid hardworking. And but for him to be patient with a generation like me, where I was a nerdy little gamer kid who, you know, for him to have that patience was good. It was cool.
Yeah, that's awesome to hear. So with having learned those lessons, how do you pass those on to your kids or to your daughter?
Yeah. So, you know, I plan to, because, you know, she's only 1.5. But I will say, so far up to this point, patience has been one of those things that I learned. I thought I was a fairly patient person until I had a child.
Yeah, it's amazing how they bring that out of you.
Yeah.
Man, because I thought the same thing. Yeah, I got patience. No, man, I wasn't even close.
No, and one of the things that we struggled with in the beginning, obviously, was sleep deprivation. But patience, as far as, you know, I have to remember that she's only 1 year old, and, you know, she's going to throw fits, and we're probably going to lose a lot of sleep. And, you know, that's something that I'm hoping as she gets older, she sees and recognizes and understands, is that, you know, we have that patience with her, and that understanding that she is a child. Not really anything anybody can do about it other than have patience. So
yeah, it's definitely amazing how much patience you definitely have to have, because kids, they know nothing. They're literally a blank slate. I mean, there's nothing there at all. So everything that they learn is brand new. So one of the things I struggled with was like the simple things, like, hey, pick this sock up, don't put it here. But really, they don't know that. Whatever, it's a sock, there it goes. They don't know anything different. And like little things like that were really huge, and they definitely start at, you know, that age. I mean, the second that they're born, they start learning patience from you, because, man, if you lose your ish, man, they're gonna lose theirs just as quickly, and it's worse when both of y'all are losing it.
Yeah, and if that's a learned norm by them, it's only going to get worse as they get older. You know, they react. So
yeah, man, that is so true. That's so true. So what are some of besides like the patience, what are some other core values that you guys have started to incorporate into your fathering style, and then maybe you and your wife into your parenting style together?
Yeah, sure. So first and most importantly, our faith in God. Definitely want to raise my children on biblical truth, honesty, trust, kindness, hard work, and quality time. I can dissect those for you if you want me to.
Yeah, please do. Open them up, expand them. Let's get this out there.
Awesome. So obviously, faith in God, it kind of leads to the rest of these values that I have. You know, without our relationship with the Father, in my opinion, none of these values matter. You know, we want to establish honesty with our child. We want her to come to us on it with honestly with things, you know, and then that kind of leads to trust as well. You know, I want my daughter and future children, we plan on having more children. I want them to, if they have a problem, they can come to us. They can come to us with no worry of you know, pure judgment. Like, hey, you know, you got this issue. I'm going to help you. Let's walk through it. We're going to do this together. This isn't something that you have to do by yourself. Kindness, it's pretty obvious. We're going to be kind to one another, and not even just show kindness to my family. I want them to see me show kindness to people outside of our family unit, right? Strangers, friends, other family members. I want them to see that so that they can emulate that as well. Hard work, obvious. I want them to work hard, and I have to show that. You know, I have to be the as far as working hard.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then quality time. I want them to know that when they have my time and my attention, they have my full time and full attention. And I'm going to make sure that that's implemented pretty heavily, because kind of like my dad, you know, we didn't have a lot of that quality time. Sure that, you know, my kids know that they have my time. And what's this? I heard a question. I believe it goes, how do kids spell love? Time.
Oh, wow, that's good.
Yeah, it's really cool.
That's good. I don't think I've heard that before. That's awesome.
Yeah, so that stuck with me. That hit me pretty heavy. So there you go. Core values.
Yeah, man. And that's so true. I mean, there's that quality time with kids is so important. I was talking to someone the other day, and they're like, it takes 9 minutes. Studies show it takes 9 minutes a day to have a quality relationship with your child. If we can't give 9 minutes a day to our, you know, one of the most important people in our lives, man, we got our priorities all jacked up. So that's that quality time. I agree with you, man. That's so important. They're gonna learn so much. Your dog's gonna learn so much from you just by being around. I mean, there's no better way to teach somebody than just being around them. And she's gonna pick up all these little bits of information from you. That's so awesome.
I completely.
Yeah, man. That honesty one, man. I love that too, because building that trust of your daughter being able to come to you whenever, I mean, that's gonna come back to you in dividends later on when maybe she's out at a party and she shouldn't be driving. She has that trust with you to be able to call you, man. That's so awesome to hear.
Absolutely.
That's so awesome. So thanks for bringing those up, man.
Yeah, man. Awesome. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, so I know you got, a year and a 1.5-year-old. So what has sleep debt kind of been the hardest problem that you guys have faced?
Yeah, especially in months, because with sleep deprivation and the stress of your only job in the first 3 months is to keep that baby alive.
Yeah.
however means possible. But recently it's been the fit throwing has been kind of one of our struggles that we've had to deal with. It's that big of a deal because we just know that her emotions are all over the place and her body's changing and she's figuring she doesn't even know how to control her emotions. So we're definitely trying to remain patient through that, but it's definitely still something that it catches you on the wrong day, man. You know what I'm saying?
I do.
I don't want to punch you, but for some reason,
I do totally understand that. I mean, I got a 6-week-old or 7-week-old actually, right home right now. And so that sleep, man, it is rough. I mean, I think today started like one this morning, so it's definitely rough and it can be brutal, man. But hang in there, brother. I mean, that's where that patience comes in that your father was talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, man. So if you don't mind me asking, is your father still alive?
Yeah. Yep.
I'll say, man, do you ever just pick his brain? Like, hey, how did you handle this when I was doing that? And when I was a brat, at this age, how did you handle it?
Yeah, absolutely, man. I reach out to him constantly for things. And I'd say actually our relationship is a lot better now that I'm an adult. So I definitely can have better conversations with him, especially about being a dad. Cause yeah, I'm like, I ask him all the time, like, I can't believe you didn't, just up for adoption or something. Cause
yeah. Do you have brothers or sisters?
Yeah. I'm the oldest of 4.
Oh man. So God bless him, man. So what's like the breakdown there, boys to girls ratio?
So right below me is my brother. He's 22. And then below that's my sister. She's 21. And then my youngest sister, she's 16. She's still in high school.
Okay. Gotcha, man. So he had it all and kind of had some together and some farther apart, man. Man, yeah. God bless. That's awesome to hear. So we touched on it like vaguely, but what are like some of the biggest problems facing fatherhood just kind of as a society today? Like what are some of the bigger problems that you think we face?
So I think that right now fathers are the whole like masculinity movement thing that's going on right now. There's a lot of people that are talking about that. And I believe that the father, the picture of the father itself in the family unit, the patriarch, right, is being threatened by so many things. It's a huge problem. So like, for example, I'm a recruiter. I'm in these high schools daily. So I'm right there. And I get to see the youth firsthand, good and bad. And, there's something just very obvious about a child with no father as opposed to a child with a strong father figure in the home. You know, and I don't know, man, there's so many outside influences that are affecting our children and diminishing the father figure in the home. You know, we've got social media, teachers, online influencers, and if your child is drawn to these people and it's the wrong person, it's going to lead your child down a devastating road.
Mm-hmm.
If these people are pressing against what you're trying to implement in your family as a father, there's going to be a lot of pushback with your kids.
Mm-hmm.
And,
Absolutely.
yeah, and that's something that I'm seeing with these kids now is there's a lack of respect, and I believe it's because a lot of fathers have kind of stepped down from that patriarch mantle,
Mm-hmm.
and kind of given up, said, you know what,
Yeah.
I'm going to let these teachers and these influencers raise my kids. I'm going to let TikTok raise my kids as
Mm-hmm.
opposed to me, because it's just too hard right now. It's too hard
Mm-hmm.
for me to raise my kids. So
Yeah, man, that's a really good point. That's interesting that you brought up, you know, like the high school kids that you can see who didn't have a strong fatherhood figure. Because I mean, I'm also in the military, and I can see I've been in for a decade, and the the people who come in when I was first in are are like we're like worlds apart from these new 18, 19-year-old kids that come in who
yeah,
it's very obvious. Like, yeah, it's a really rude awakening call too, because they come in and like, yeah, you may talk like that in your household, but you ain't gonna talk like that here. Like this is big boy stuff here. And I think we're doing a big disservice by not holding our kids to a standard. I
yeah,
think you're dead on there, especially with the TikTok and, you know, all the negative influences that are out there.
yeah,
It
absolutely.
definitely, yeah, I definitely think that's a big problem. And you had brought up about how the fathers aren't seen as like the head of the household anymore. And I know, like, from what I hear is a lot of like, oh, you know, the fathers need to they've been the head of the household for too long. And I view it as like, if I'm the head of the household, I'm ultimately serving my household. Man, to be a leader at that level, you have to be you serve the people that are under you. I mean, do you experience that kind of? Have you seen that same kind of thing happening where, I mean, the kids that are coming in aren't didn't have that strong figure, and then I guess I'm trying to touch on like the fathers being the leader of the household.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. There's just something about their demeanor, the way
Mm-hmm.
that they speak to you. You can often, pick up a sense of disrespect just in their voice.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then something as small as shaking somebody's hand. The kids, I can just tell if it's a strong handshake, they've got, somebody showing them how to shake
Mm-hmm.
somebody's. Then those other kids, they give you one of these,
Yeah.
it's wild, man. But you know, the Bible, I'll kind of go into this a little bit. The Bible tells us specifically what a father is supposed to look like and how a father is supposed to lead. I'll give a couple examples.
Yeah.
I've
Please
got
do.
I've got Proverbs chapter 22 verse 6 here. It says, "Train up a child in the way he should go. Even when he is old, he will not depart from it."
Wow.
And then also here I've got Ephesians chapter 6 verse 4. It says, "Fathers, do not provoke your children to anger, but bring them up in the discipline and instruction of the Lord." And then here I have, fathers were not to provoke or frustrate their children through their parenting. It hurts them. Fathers were supposed to instead teach our children God's word to provide wisdom for living well and just help our children get to Jesus, man. That's
Mm-hmm.
it may seem difficult, but it's simple.
Mm-hmm.
The instructions are there. So
Yeah, they're really laid out there, especially, you know, Proverbs. I mean, they were written by Solomon. Doesn't
yeah,
get any more wise than him, man.
yeah, and I feel, and that's probably one of the biggest problems with dads these days is there's not a lot of dads leading their children um, to the Bible, to God. They're
Mm-hmm.
not. There's not a lot of Christian homes, and families suffer due to that.
Yeah.
I mean, this evidence is pretty clear these days.
Yeah, absolutely.
far as that goes. So
yeah, absolutely. You're just trying to remove God and everything, and then you can slowly see how just those standards and those morals, they slowly start to slip. And you see it in school, and you just see it anywhere that they try to remove God. I totally agree with you with that. So with your daughter's pretty young. So what are some of the ways that you stay actively engaged with your daughter at that age?
So I definitely try to be intentional about the time that I spend with her. So growing up, and actually just within the past few years, I've had a pretty heavy phone addiction.
Okay.
You know, I'm on the screen, I'm on the phone, just mindlessly scrolling, right? And when she was younger, I still was doing it a little bit. And I'd find myself at the end of the day pretty frustrated with myself because I took that time away from her and gave it to my phone.
Mm-hmm.
So especially in the past few months, I've been being very intentional about leaving the phone off or in a different room and being actively engaged with my daughter, playing with her. My wife is big on the, what are they called? The wooden toys. I can't remember exactly.
Like the blocks or?
No, Montessori toys. Montessori toys.
Okay.
Yeah. Learning different activities with the
Mm-hmm.
wooden. So I try to play with her, teach her those. I try to speak clearly and not like a baby, so that she can speak, or she can mimic what I'm saying. But just that's it. That's all I'm trying to say, man, is I'm just trying to be intentional with the time that I do spend with her, as opposed to getting distracted by my phone or the TV or whatnot.
Mm-hmm. So you were talking about getting distracted kind of with your phone. I also think the time that's spent away from your kids also has to be intentional, because I remember when my son was born, I would watch news all the time, and
Mm-hmm.
Fox News all the time. And what I found was I would watch it, get frustrated, and I would start directing, my wife, or it carried over into my family. So I realized, oh, okay, I have to be intentional off, away from my kids as well, because that's also influences your kids.
Yeah.
Yes.
I wholeheartedly agree with that. That is, it. If I don't know, if I need a break from my daughter, I'll go for a drive,
Mm-hmm.
clear my, listen to a podcast, listen to some music, whatever. That way I can come back refreshed, rejuvenated.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I completely agree, man. It's important.
Yeah, it's so important. You don't let work, creep into home, and
Yes.
you don't let work like creep into here. Like, work, it's gotta stay at work. It has to stay there. The second you're home. Being a father, husband, way more important. How difficult is it for you, being a recruiter, to be able to unplug, from your phone and not answering phone calls? Because I know when I was enlisted, I called my recruiter all the time.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up. So recruiting is one of those jobs. It's 24/7.
Mm-hmm.
You can't stop thinking about it. Your phone's going off all the time. Sometimes there's things that need done at 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night, and you just have to turn the computer on and do it.
Mm-hmm.
But what I've been doing recently is, when I get home, I turn the work phone off.
Mm-hmm.
And I've gotten in trouble for this so many times. I turn the work phone off. I turn the computer off. Sometimes I just leave it at the office. I don't even bring it home.
Mm-hmm.
Because it is one of those things. It's almost addicting. It's
Mm-hmm.
almost like I get home and like I could call a few more people.
Yeah.
And it's so. But yes, I've been leaving those things at the office. I sit in my truck when I get home, and I tell myself, like, this is intentional. You have to be
Mm-hmm.
intentional right now. Turn it off. You're home now. You're not at work. Don't bring work to home.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I believe that there's like a tier of importance, home life, work life, and you can go down. Like, I can take my home life into work, talk about my kids at work. But when I'm home, I try my best not to even talk about work, because I know, like, I'll get talking with my wife and we'll just kind of spiral, and then I'll be like, oh, well, let me just make that phone call that I need to make. Let me, that's definitely tough.
Yeah, and I had to change because a few months ago, my wife actually told me. She was like, "You talk about work a lot," and it hit me. I was like, oh, I do
Man,
talk.
wives are so good at that. I mean, they're so good at just hitting you with this one liner, like what you said. You talk about work a lot, or my wife hit me with one a while ago where she was like, you don't smile as much as you used to when we dated. Like, oh man, like, okay, why is that? Oh, look, because I'm letting all these other influences, and I'm not dating my wife the way that I should. It's actually something that I still struggle with. And I don't date my wife nearly as much as I should. I don't know. Maybe, have you hit that? You want to expand on that at all?
Yeah, man. We actually just had a conversation recently about that, about how she feels as though, we've kind of lost that dating, like you said, that date thing. And it's because I'm allowing all these outside things to stress me out when I get home. And even though I tell myself that I'm turning it off, there's just something in the back of my head, stressing me out all the time. And, I'm still learning how to deal with that, completely, shut it off so that I can be intentional in dating my wife. And if you ever find out the answer, let me know.
I'll say I'm sure I'll figure it out eventually, and she'll hit me with another line and be like, "Oh yeah, that worked," or "Oh no, that didn't." I'll say if I figure it out, though, I'll give you a call. Cody, man, I got it. I figured it out. I cracked the code.
I appreciate it.
I'll say it's just better get a voicemail though, man. You better be spending time with your family.
Yep.
Cool, man. So I want to hear kind of any last pieces of advice, anything that you really want to talk about, maybe like a question that I didn't get to ask you that you want to. I want to kind of open it up and see what you can lay out there, man.
Yeah. So, sorry if I'm looking at a script here, but I actually took this question pretty seriously, so I put it in my notes here.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah. So I put, listen, dads, we have a very important job to do. Aside from being a husband, being a father is the biggest responsibility you will ever have in your life. Be intentional. Strive to be a better man and a better father every day. We're not always going to get it right, but we should always be moving in the right direction every single day. Our families are counting on us. If you don't father and lead your children, someone else will, and you may not like the end result of that.
Man, I could not say that any better, dude. That's perfect. Thanks for like taking the opportunity of writing that up. You saying that was just like a wave washing over me, bro.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I appreciate it.
That was awesome. All right, Cody, I want to wrap this up, brother. Let everyone kind of know how they can get a hold of you, your website, Instagram, whatever. The floor is yours for a little spiel, man.
Sure, brother. So if you go to Instagram, follow @soundmind_feed. There you'll see my Instagram page, and then in the bio I've got a link, and that link has a few different ways of contacting me. It's got my email in there. It's got a website I sell merch. Go ahead and take a look at it if you'd like. But that's it, man. That's how you find me.
Yeah, that's awesome. I was gonna say, I see the shirt there, man. I love it. I love the lion paw right there on the shield with the sword, brother. That's awesome. It's funny that because I was looking at your stuff, and I try to get like some ideas from other people. It's like, man, that looks too good. Like I love it, but I know that recreating. I know you just call me right now and be like, hey, man, like you copying my stuff here?
Oh man, dude. That's so actually this one is actually my Forgiven shirt, so I'll show you the back here.
Yeah, please. Oh, that's sweet.
Yeah, so this one was actually, I have a tattoo. It basically looks the same on my chest. It says Forgiven.
Okay.
But yeah, no, man, listen. If you want to take my designs, you take my designs. That's what they're
Yeah, I love it. Hey man, right back at you. Want it? Take it. It's all yours, bro. I'm like all this like information that we're sharing. I just want it out there. Like I'm not looking to become millionaires off that. I just want it out there. Just want it out there.
Yeah.
Cool, Cody. Hey man, I want to say thank you so much for taking the time. Thank you for your service. I mean, we definitely need more fathers that are, engaged from the military. I think it's such an awesome resource because you learn so much there. So I want to say thank you for that. I want to say thank you for taking the time to sit down and talk with me, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, man. Thank you for your service as well.
Yeah, absolutely, brother.
I think what you're doing is awesome, man. Having these conversations with these fathers and putting it out there for people to see it. Man, I hope and I pray that fathers see this and and they're changed by it, man. And you're leading a revolution. I think it's awesome.
Well, thanks, brother. I really do appreciate that, brother.
Absolutely.
All right, brother. Take care, man. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday.
You too, man. Thank you.
All right, later.
Later.